What is going on, everybody? We are back with another reaction video. Thank you so much for joining me today. The support truly means a lot. And to all my new viewers, welcome to the family. Welcome to the family. I hope you all enjoyed this video today because I know I will, and I was itching to get into this, man. I couldn't wait. Today, I will be checking out 9/11 Operation Yellow Ribbon. Now, this video right here was highly, I could keep going, recommended. And thank you so much to everybody that spammed my comment section and actually used that suggestion link down below and recommended this right here. You guys made it very clear that you wanted me to react to this video next. And I'm sorry, because I seen the comments and I actually ended up posting a different video yesterday and today, I believe. So you guys will get this video tomorrow because I'm making this today, the day before. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and turn all post notifications on. Let's get into this, man. Over here in America, we are not educated on how much Canada has actually helped us throughout these times. So that is why I wanted to check out this video today. Thank you so much for telling me to watch this. I would have never found it without you guys. Here we go. 9/11 Operation Yellow Ribbon.
Mentioned earlier that Tom Brokaw had an extremely...
This video is almost an hour long. I'm sorry, everybody. So I'm going to have to split it up into sections, maybe like 3-4 parts, maybe like 3 parts.
Mentioned earlier that Tom Brokaw had an extremely compelling piece, so without further ado, Tom Brokaw.
Al, this devastating earthquake in Chile is a reminder that when one country gets in trouble, it really does depend on the family of nations for help. That's been especially true between this country, Canada, and the U.S., of course. The ties between the United States and Canada are long and enduring, and not just in good times, it turns out. On September 11th, 2001, the people of Canada came to our aid, managing an unprecedented crisis in the skies. They also took care of tens of thousands of displaced passengers who arrived at their doorstep on short notice. This is the story of one small town that didn't get the attention it deserved in the chaotic aftermath of 9/11. In so many ways, it symbolizes the grace and the unselfish spirit of this very generous nation. September 11th, 2009. This is a scene that has played out in communities for 8 years since the terrorist attacks of 2001. But what makes this ceremony different is where it's taking place. This is the Appleton Peace Park near the town of Gander in Newfoundland, Canada.
Oh!
Where during the tragedy of 9/11, there was a bright light on the better part of our humanity.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing that has happened here, and we know that no matter what happens in the world, there are still good people.
If this place can be somehow shared with the world would be a much better place.
Here in Gander, amid the heartache, an autumn romance blossomed. Here,
Let me find out Canada was feeling for us throughout that time. How serious was this to you guys when you heard that both Twin Towers were struck? What did you guys do? Were schools shut down? Did a few of you actually leave work and go home and watch the news forecast to see what was going on? Did some of you actually like stay home from work the next day to follow up on what was going on? How serious was this in Canada? I didn't know these other countries really supported us throughout our hard times like that. Like, I had to find out that Great Britain was like by our side. 9/11, and they were supporting us as well. Now Canada?
parents were constantly consoled as they faced wrenching pain. Here, thousands of stranded Americans would form a lasting bond with everyday Canadians who acted with admirable, unwavering kindness. We can never again look at the New York skyline without remembering that day, September 11th, when terrorists hijacked airliners loaded with passengers and jet fuel, flew them into the World Trade Center and killed 3,000 people, altering the lives of an untold number of...
I'm just going to do this real quick for my people who haven't seen any pictures or the videos. There's always a first time for everything. Yeah, that's what it pretty much looked like. Yeah. See the aftermath, the planes, and fire. Look at this firefighter right here, man. Like, he looks like a statue. It looks like there's something seriously wrong with him. Like, he can't even move, and he's paralyzed. He's probably traumatized. Like, shout out to all the first responders. Like, for real. To all the first responders who were there. Who were there in the mix of all of that chaos. And rest in peace to all the lost ones.
Of others. Most of our attention that day, of course, was focused here in New York, but it was a story that reverberated around the world, and it had a special impact on a small Canadian town 1,000 miles north of here, a town that became a safe port in a storm of fear, terrorism, and uncertainty. The province of Newfoundland and Labrador, a former British colony that did not join Canada until 1949, has long been considered Canada's poorest. It is largely populated by descendants of Scots and Irish, living simply in often harsh conditions. Here, neighbors relying on neighbors is a necessity of everyday life. Gander, population 10,000, is a small, two-stoplight town in the northeast corner of the island of Newfoundland. Claude Elliott has been mayor of Gander since 1996.
We only have 500,000 people on a massive island. We've come through some difficult times, and most Newfoundlanders survive with hard work, helping each other, and that's been passed on from generation to generation.
Right.
The cold season can come quickly and severely in Newfoundland, but September 11th, 2001 dawns warm and sunny, a typically bucolic day that will be anything but typical, as Gander is about to be thrust into the catastrophic events unfolding 1,000 miles to the southwest. Its citizens to be challenged as never before.
September 11, 2001 started as a normal day in Gander. While we were having coffee, someone said there was a plane that crashed in New York in one of the Twin Towers.
We had complaints of speeding on Airport Boulevard. It's the only 4-lane road that we have, and I was parked in front of the curling club. I had my car radio and I heard what was going on. And like a lot of people, I couldn't believe that this was happening. And I said, that can't be true. It just can't be.
It is such a pretty morning, isn't it?
Perfect fall morning.
On that September morning, air traffic control veteran Ben Slaney is on his first day in his new position as FAA National Operations Manager. Barely an hour into the workday, there is an...
This is how your first day went? Not even an hour in? Oh my goodness. Give this man a pay raise already.
ominous development.
We were trying to locate American 11. It had shut off its transponder and dropped below radar coverage.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the book is called Hughes. We want to go live right now and show you a picture of the World Trade Center.
A plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City.
We saw what appeared to be a fireball at the top of the World Trade Center.
We had reports of another aircraft that had deviated from its course.
Another one just hit.
U.S. officials say it appears it was a third plane that hit the Pentagon.
Yup.
I ordered a national ground stop, meaning that no other aircraft could take off. Whatever's necessary. Just get them stopped now. I don't want any more planes on their frequency taking off.
56 minutes after the North Tower is struck, an unprecedented decision has been made. Every non-military plane must land immediately. For the first time ever, American airspace is closed.
That's right.
This is war. This is a declaration and an execution of an attack on the United States.
The only way to really sort the situation out was to land everyone in our airspace.
The FAA now says that all international flights headed for the United States are being diverted to Canada.
Everybody got to go to Canada. Okay.
Every day, as transatlantic flights enter and leave North American airspace, they are managed
I didn't know
here,
that.
the Area Control Center in Gander, Newfoundland.
I've always wondered where those planes went. I'm like, what happened? They all went to Canada. Yo, I've always sat there and wondered. Nobody's ever asked that question in school, not even the teachers. They just leave it at 9/11. They don't even, I guess they didn't care where the other planes went because we're focused on the towers. All right. I'll give them a break.
Canada 1174 Center, good day. Clear to send to maintain 6,000 people.
On September 11th, when U.S. airspace is shut down, there are almost 400 planes carrying tens of thousands of passengers westbound over the Atlantic. Around 200 are close enough to return to Europe. 167 more are too far across the ocean to turn back. When did you begin to be aware of what was about to happen in Gander? The flights that had been crossing the Atlantic more than halfway, many of them were going to be headed for Gander and St. John's and Halifax, but Gander would be the big magnet.
I knew that the Canadians were going to get an onslaught of traffic, and I suppose I hoped that they'd be able to handle that traffic.
60 north and 0 west.
The responsibility of handling the traffic falls to a small team led by Don O'Brien, the supervisor on duty at the control center for NAV Canada, the Canadian version of the FAA.
The arrival sector, we normally would have 3 controllers seated. We quickly went to 14. We train for emergencies. We train for bomb threats, but usually it's a single airplane or maybe a second one, maybe, but not to this level. The activity was going on here.
A lot of stress
Was
in the
another
control
part of your
tower.
mind thinking about what had happened in New York and the possibility that there were more terrorists out there?
I'm sure it went through the controllers' heads, it went through my head, but sure, some of those airplanes could have been missiles. We didn't know how extensive this was, but that wasn't our call, really. We just had to get those airplanes on the ground safely.
Yeah.
One of the pilots approaching
I think a lot of people tend to forget that without the control tower people, we are stranded in the air. We are stranded in the air unless we see a runway somewhere to land or water. We're stranded. We need the control tower. They need to tell us where to go, where to land. Are we cleared to land? It looks clear from about 20,000 feet. You go down, there could be a plane at the end of the runway. So yeah.
Newfoundland is Beverly Bass, the first female captain at a major airline.
Okay.
She's flying American Flight 49 from Paris to Dallas with 170 people on board.
From the controller's standpoint, they feared that another airplane was going to be taken down. Some of the airplanes were given directions to turn around and go back to their departure city. So we're sitting there cruising westbound and looking out the window, and you can actually see them turn and make 180s and head back to Europe.
Oh, wow. You might as well go back to Europe.
Newfoundland is an island
Safer
located
there.
off the eastern edge of North America. The 167 planes approaching Canada all must land immediately. The vast majority at small airports around the island and in the nearby maritime provinces, all controlled in Gander. Over the next 7 hours, Gander Control and the surrounding airports will handle unprecedented traffic under extreme emergency conditions.
Gander Air India 113, we go to Toronto. Air India 113 Center, negative. You must now land at Gander. Turn right heading 320. Roger, turning right heading 320.
Flight paths must be recalculated in 3 dimensions, accounting for speed, direction, altitude. Some planes are too heavy to land and must jettison fuel. The risk of collision is ever present. This is altitude. Some planes are too heavy to land and must jettison fuel.
I didn't know a plane can be too heavy to land. That's a new one. Now that's a new one. Really? Wow.
The risk of collision is ever present. This is an actual radar tape from that morning. Now you're starting to turn them toward Gander.
Yes, we got the word, of course, and we had to heel them all northward into Gander, St. John's, and Stephenville. Some of them knew there was activity going on in Kennedy, and there was a crisis in American airspace. Some of them didn't. We were telling them, look, you got to land. And they're saying, no, we're going on to Kennedy or Dallas or wherever. I said, no, you're not.
In the air, as they learn the shocking details, captains worry their own planes could be carrying hijackers, forcing many to hide the truth from their passengers.
Our captain came on the PA system and announced that we had a slight mechanical problem, something to do with an indicator signal or something like that. We were going to have to put down in Gander to have it repaired.
Shirley Brooks Jones is a retired fundraising administrator for Ohio State, returning home from Frankfurt, Germany, on board Delta Flight 15.
Once we got parked, the captain came back on the intercom, apologized to us for the ruse, and said actually the equipment was fine, but there was a national emergency in the United States.
3 aircraft that we know of were commandeered. One was crashed into each of the World Trade Center towers in New York City, and another was crashed into the Pentagon outside Washington.
Imagine receiving this information and you have family in those towers too. Like, oh my gosh. My mom worked under the tower. She worked in the gap under the World Trade Center. So she was able to get out like that. She was on the first floor. She wasn't even on a basement level, like below. She was on a first floor. So she was able to just walk right out the door and run, like, and look up and be like, oh my gosh, before she got trapped in. Because if that building would have collapsed while she was in there, she would have been trapped in there. Yeah, 100%. And I don't know if she would have made it out, man.
Apparently some type of what would appear to be maybe a terrorist activity or hijacking has occurred with airplanes which apparently have impacted the World Trade Center in New York City.
On September 11th, 8 domestic flights are scheduled to land in Gander. Instead, 38 planes carrying almost 7,000 people are beginning to fill the tarmac. The spectacle has drawn a crowd from among the town's 10,000 citizens. Oz Fudge is one of just 2 officers on the local police force.
I watched the plane come in, then I seen a jumbo come in, and then I seen another one come in, and I'm looking at this and I'm saying, holy God. If there's 200 people on each one of these planes, and we're going to get 40 or 50 planes, that's an awful lot of people.
Less than 2 hours after American Flight 11 strikes the North Tower of the World Trade Center, the skies over the United States are empty. For the first time, American airspace is completely closed. In Canada, the Gander Area Control Center somehow lands all 167 planes without incident.
Nice. Nice.
It was a sigh of relief. You wipe your brow, you thank God they all got in safely, and it was unbelievable to go from this horrific activity, and then the airspace is completely sterilized. Nobody there. No targets on the radar screen.
Here in New York, the sad task of the search for the survivors and the victims goes on and on. In New York, citizen volunteers are flooding toward Ground Zero as emergency workers search for survivors. 1,000 miles from the destruction, the 10,000 residents of the peaceful Canadian town of Gander with virtually no time to prepare, must also respond with countless acts of generosity, providing food and shelter for thousands of frightened passengers, strangers who have suddenly arrived at their door. Among the stranded, far from home, are the parents of a New York City fireman. Not knowing if their son is at ground zero, Hannah and Dennis O'Rourke fear they may never see him again.
Thousands of transatlantic flights underline the strategic importance of Newfoundland's airports.
Gander was an airport before it was a town. In the late 1930s, British and American military officials chose this site on the eastern edge of the continent to build the largest airport in the world. During World War II, this was a takeoff place for American military aircraft headed for the European theater. After the war, Gander continued to play a vital role as a refueling stop for transatlantic commercial airliners. But then, the jumbo jets came along. They could cross the Atlantic non-stop. And Gander's role in aviation was greatly reduced until September 11th, when Gander came alive again, a safe harbor for the jumbo jets that had almost put it out of business. And within a matter of hours, this vast tarmac was filled with planes from around the world, parked wingtip to wingtip.
Look at
Canada
that.
is basically becoming a gigantic runway for every plane and aircraft that was destined for the United States today.
In Gander, no one...
Wow. It's a lot of planes. Shout out to the pilots, too. I know they had to be a little freaked out, like, oof, okay, what's it going to look like when we land? I don't think that any of those pilots were prepared for that situation right there. I mean, they can't even prepare you for that in training because it's never happened before until 9/11. This was actually part 1 we were checking out today. I'm going to break this video up into 2 more parts. Next video will be part 2, and then next video will be part 3. But, you know, I kind of want to give you guys, like, I guess a 3-video series. We got part 1, part 2, part 3. That sounds better than, you know, watching this all the way through, because then this video is going to be extremely long, guys. So I feel like 3 videos will suit you guys pretty well. I'm going to post them back to back so you guys can watch them back to back. I'm not going to leave you hanging at all. And I'm not going to leave myself hanging because I'm really looking forward to watching the rest of this. And it's just getting good. It's just getting good. Once again, thank you so much for stopping by today and joining me to watch this amazing video. But we're not done yet. If you guys enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and turn all post notifications on. Thank you so much for choosing me to watch today. The support truly means a lot. Feel free to share this video and this channel to your friends and family members, whoever you feel may be interested in joining me for these reactions. Once again, I will catch you guys in the next reaction video, which will be part 2. Stay tuned. I'm looking forward to it. Stay safe.